Today, I'm going to go over some of the special editions from Jeep and Eagle, or limited run or production variations, whatever you'd like to call it.
Everybody knows this, baby. It's a Jeep, and it's back home again. Jeep is now part of Chrysler. And one thing we know for sure, if you're going to put a new car alongside a legend, you better do it right. So we're introducing the first new American car brand in 30 years, Eagle.
There are a lot of special editions out there from Jeep. It was hard finding a few for Eagle, but I do have 2 entries for them. If you aren't too interested in the special editions from either of these companies, for the future, I'm doing a dedicated video for GM, Chrysler, AMC, and Ford, all of which will be out in the upcoming months. Also, the worst cars from General Motors did very well. I'm super excited about that, and I will have the worst 80s cars from Chrysler out next week. A lot of you out there cannot stand GM, saying they haven't built good cars since the 70s, saying they are such a crap brand in general. I read all your comments, so I'm looking forward to seeing the comments on that video. In terms of these videos, they will range from the 60s up until the early 2000s. And I will be going in chronological order, or oldest to newest. I have chapters linked in the description if you want to skip a particular entry. The Jeep Golden Eagle Edition. This was a special appearance package offered from 1977 until 1983 for the CJ5 and later CJ7. I know what you're thinking, technically these Jeeps were under AMC at this time. You're 100% right, it would just make for a very weird and long video title. The Golden Eagle package was originally $200 more than the Renegade package offered at the time, or around $750 total in 1977. The main element of this special edition was the paint job. Looking at the hood, we have this large Golden Eagle. I think we can all agree that the Firebird's hood looked a lot better, but I mean, this is still a very cool paint job. On the side of the hood, it reads Golden Eagle. It came with larger tires, fender flares, chrome or black front bumper, rear step bumper, Levi soft top, 8-inch wheels which were gold as well. For the inside, the front bucket seats and rear bench seats were covered in tan Levi vinyl, which featured real brass Levi buttons and was also equipped with a factory tachometer and clock. I don't know if all Golden Eagles had this Levi-inspired interior. I know AMC and Levi were in collaboration with each other at the time. They came out with this special edition for the Gremlin, which is really cool, but for the CJs, I'm not 100% sure. Initially, these were only offered in oak leaf brown, but became available with more color options over the years. In 1980, Jeep also came out with the Golden Hawk package. Around 650 CJs had this. These are far rarer and definitely cost more. But that's not to say the Golden Eagle is cheap, nor was it produced in mass numbers. Unfortunately, there's no public record of how many were built from 1977 until 1983. Jeep didn't stop here and exclusively offered this package with the CJ models. It was also available for the Cherokee and J10 for only $1978 and $1979. At the time, the Cherokees were offered in S or Sport, Chief, Golden Eagle, and they too had the Golden Hawk available for 1980. And I believe Laredo was introduced for the 1980 model year. The Golden Eagle was only available on the wide wheel 2-doors. These Cherokees had 3-inch wider axles and fender flares. From what I've seen, there was a couple of color options, green, white, and brown. Finding a clean example of one of these is pretty rare. These Cherokees were rode hard and put away wet. And yes, even the J10s had this appearance package. These colors and graphics really helped show how the late 70s influenced the car game. It truly speaks for the time. For 2006, Jeep built 1,000 Golden Eagle Wranglers to pay tribute to this heritage-laced package. It's alright, you look at the hood of the modern version compared to the originals, it's just not the same, nor should it be. I don't know, should they have done this at all? That's for you to decide. Eagle Premier 2.5, which was offered from 1988 until 1989. In 1987, AMC and Renault originally had plans to make the Premier name a full model line. This fell through and AMC handed over its contract to Chrysler, and the Premier became their flagship.
This is Eagle Premier, European styling and the most aerodynamic sedan built on this continent.
The Premier at the time was a very unique vehicle for Chrysler, yet they didn't know exactly what to do with it. The higher trim levels were to compare with the Acura Legend, while lower trim levels were to compare with the Taurus. Sounds pretty strange, doesn't it? It's too much of a gap. and because of this, it gave not only the Premier, but the brand as a whole uncertainty. The V6 was available in base LX and upscale EX trims, while the 4-cylinder was only available as an LX. This fuel-injected version of the AMC 2.54 made 111 horsepower and 143 pound-feet of torque, which isn't all that bad for a 4-cylinder back then. More standard power than a Pontiac 6000 and a Ford Taurus at the time. 0 to 60 in 11.6 seconds, around 2 seconds slower than the V6. This was all made into a new electronically controlled 4-speed automatic, and a 5-speed manual was planned, but it ended up getting cancelled. Chrysler found that the V6 models sold far better than the 2.5s, and just after 2 years, they canceled these motors in the Premier. I guess it wasn't all bad for Chrysler, as they needed to sell more of these V6 engines. Within the contract, Chrysler needed to sell 250,000 PRV V6 engines. The Premier failed to do this, and this is why Dodge introduced the Monaco. That's all I got for you on this one, a special engine option. With little thought put into a company, comes hardly any special edition models. I'm sorry guys. Eagle 2000 GTX, another Eagle entry. It's okay if you want to move on, the last entry is a Jeep. The part 2 for this will be all Jeeps, so don't worry, no more Eagles. This was a joint venture between DSM in the early 90s, kind of like the Eagle Talon, Plymouth Laser, and Mitsubishi Eclipse, just for a different car. So basically, the Eagle 2000 GTX is a Mitsubishi Galant GSX and the Dodge 2000 GTX. I'll explain more about this later. These cars actually have the 4G63 engine like the VR4, just it's naturally aspirated and not turbocharged. The brochure says these babies were designed in the tradition of the finest Grand Touring sedans, and actually these were pretty loaded up for the time, especially for being a compact to mid-size car. Front-wheel drive models came standard with Mitsubishi's ECS2 system, or a computer-controlled active suspension system that was designed to fuel the road, then adjust damping rates, or shocks and springs, for a more comfortable ride. All-wheel drive models didn't have this, they had a double wishbone, rear independent suspension. They also featured electronic power steering and a normal or sport mode at the touch of a switch. Again, these are pretty impressive for the time. They were to compete with the Accords, and they did just that. Base engines made 102 horsepower and 120 pound-feet of torque, made it into a 4-speed automatic or a 5-speed manual. A couple of trims were offered, base, premium, and premium all-wheel drive. Either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive was offered for premium models, and they both featured that 4G63 engine, which made 135 horsepower and 125 pound-feet of torque. What makes this car so special is that it was only offered in Canada. To some that might not be super interesting, but again, Eagle is such a unique brand, to put it lightly. During this time, Mitsubishi did not have an official presence in Canada. That wouldn't be until the early 2000s. It's just like how the US sold these Mitsubishis under Dodge, Eagle, or Plymouth. This isn't the only Eagle unique to Canada, they also had the Vista, or Dodge and Plymouth Colt. Originally, the 2000 GTX was sold under Dodge from 1989 until 1991, when they switched it to an Eagle. I really have no idea why they did this. Maybe Eagle wanted to appear like they were established by having more cars in their lineup, and as we see by this brochure, at least for 1992, they had a relatively large lineup, especially for a new company. Alright, this is the last Eagle entry for a long time. Jeep Grand Cherokee TSI and 5.9. The TSI package was offered from 1997 until 1999. We are familiar with the Eagle Talon and Vision TSI. For those cars, TSI meant this top-notch trim. Well, for the most part, technically the Talon TSI all-wheel drive was the highest of the highest. Anyway, this wasn't the same for the Cherokee. The TSI trim was slotted between the Laredo and Limited models. It featured a body-colored grille. In the 90s, this was common for sport trim models to have. The S10 SS featured the same thing. Unique 16-inch wheels, lower body cladding, fog lights, premium sound system, and an iris blue pinstripe. The TSI trim was an extra $2,000 over the Laredo. For the most part, they were pretty identical, just TSI models had leather trim along with cruise control, and a couple other interior features. Probably the biggest difference was the Laredo had the Select Track switchable 4-wheel drive system, while the TSI had a full-time 4-wheel drive system with Quadra Track. The same engines were offered. They didn't come standard with the 5.2 or anything, so the inline 6 was also available. You had 3 color options: black, platinum, and deep amethyst. These were very unpopular. They didn't offer all that much over the Laredo, and if you're already spending more, you might as well get the limited. So the TSI did not bring performance to the Grand Cherokee, but the 5.9 Limited did. Offered for only the 1998 model year, the last year for the ZJ body style, Jeep dropped the 5.9 Magnum, the same engine in the Dakota RTs and Durango. 245 horsepower and 345 foot-pounds of torque, just insane numbers at the time, even more so to find it in a family SUV. The 5.0 Explorers were also very powerful, but these take the cake in my opinion. The 5.2 was standard in limited models. These 5.9s boosted 20 more horsepower and 40 more foot-pounds of torque, 0 to 60 in a little less than 7 seconds. Consumers could pick between rear-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. They had the same quadra-track system found in the TSIs. These featured a rear differential, mesh grille, hood louvers, exhaust tip, curved rockers, bumper guards were dropped, and all trim was color matched. On top of all this, they were super luxurious with heated and leather seats, a premium sound system, and even keyless entry for 98. I thought the Navigator was the first luxurious SUV as it came out in 98. I guess in terms of class size, they differ. The Jeep 5.9 Limited was not only luxurious, it was good at off-roading, it could tow around 7,000 pounds, and was very quick compared to everything else on the market. Really, the biggest downfall for these was the price, almost 50 grand back in 98. That's almost equivalent to the brand new Wagoneer. And it had terrible fuel economy that needed premium fuel. Out of all the Grand Cherokees produced for 98, only 6% of them, or a little less than 15,000, rolled off the assembly line. It is now time for the tier list. It's kinda hard to rank the Jeep Golden Eagle Edition. When they first came out, it was, common during that time. It's just kind of like seeing a unique trim level today, with some certain graphics. So at the time, it was just, an appearance package that cost more money. People probably didn't really care for it. But nowadays, they go for a lot of money. They're super collectible. It's just kind of hard to rank, so I'm going to have to skip over the Golden Eagle Edition. Eagle Premier with a 2.5, I'm going to probably put it in D tier. It's not the worst thing, but I don't know. Eagle is just this brand that I find it generally interesting, but now that I learn more about it, the cars are just kind of crap, man. The 2000 GTX, I'll put it in C tier. Again, it was pretty advanced for the time. It made decent power, and it wasn't super ugly, so C tier for the 2000 GTX. Jeep Grand Cherokee TSI, God, I'm gonna put it in D tier, as everybody else during the time period, they just skipped over this package. It's like you might as well get the Laredo or Limited. This TSI was just weird. And for the 5.9, I'm gonna put it in A tier. For the time, these things were truly insane, and even today, I still think they're cool. Just the fuel economy was really bad. Some people have issues with the 5.9, so I don't think it's not S tier. It's not like one of the best cars ever made. It's got some nice history behind it, so yeah, A tier for the 5.9. That's gonna wrap it up for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. I just want to let you guys know that I read all your comments. It's nice to see when you guys say some nice things. It keeps me motivated, and I appreciate the criticism and the areas where I mess up. I acknowledge them and understand, and I appreciate this whole community. And with that said, you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay tuned for next week. We are going to be going over the worst 80s cars from Chrysler.
The American car buyer expects the best. Wrangler, Cherokee, Comanche, and now Premier. Legend says Jeeps always land on their feet, and Eagles, well, they gotta fly.